knocking on my door, boom, and I know the reason, see me going back, and then they come and do what telling me just that I'm a cool, even though I'm on my cool, but if I know my bed, you know the reason that I'm holding all the trees, and I got a lot of weed, baby's popping me with this for free, in the morning, you know the hell is you, oh, you coming through, holding up in the sea.
Brewed with 100% Rocky Mountain water for a refreshing taste. Coors Banquet.
Yeah.
Watch all FIFA World Cup matches.
There were
on Fox
two,
One.
yeah.
Now
We were watching some of that yesterday. Oh my gosh. Oh, some of the,
every play together.
yeah, in Venezuela. Oh, it was awful.
So it's easy to
I know, it just, again, when you mentioned it.
even when it's hard to watch.
Oh God,
Find sports, shows, and movies.
how scary.
At over 45 streaming
So
services
sad.
in one app. Try it free.
I know that when the mom and the little girl just missed him, and the little girl, she came running out of that cloud of smoke. Her little legs were moving so fast, oh my goodness. Yeah. A bunch of, yeah, buildings collapsing. Oh my gosh, yes. Just barely seeing the few shots that we did. Oh gosh, I can only imagine. Oh. Yeah, well, I mean, how do you prevent something like that? It's a double earthquake, pretty big earthquake. Right, I mean, predict, prepare. I mean, it's not too much, I guess. When lightning strikes, as they say. It's amazing to think of that precious life is, all these little simple things we enjoy, you know, day by day, keeping it alive. You know, water, food, tastes good, feels good, refreshing, comfortable. I'm irritated. You know, irritated doesn't seem to exist. For us, anyways. I don't ever feel like irritated, you know? It's like, okay, that's a little annoying. But as far as, right, do you know like an irritated? People trying to purposely irritate you because you said you can't be irritated. That irritates you. Oh, right. If you say, yeah, nothing really irritates me, and then they want to do the old mocking. Bert, you want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? Ah! And they're right in your face and tap it on your forehead. Irritated yet? Right, that's just stupid. I hate that shit. Yeah, I know. It doesn't. You gotta put the fear of God in them, man. You gotta put the fear of God in them. Boogeyman. Jack the Ripper. Candyman. Bloody Mary. The Loup-garou. The Loup-garou is gonna get you. The Loup-garou is like the French word for boogeyman, right? Bigfoot. Don't go in those woods. Bigfoot's in there. Go to bed. The boogeyman's under your bed. Right, so I mean, if people were to actually put out investigations, I mean, as a kid, you used to do that, right? The boogeyman under the bed, you'd almost do investigations, try to find the trap door. Yeah, there's only so much space there, huh? I mean, Bigfoot, it's endless woods and areas you can search, and it might be in there. How many years they do that? And the footprint? Oh man, it's fucking classic. The Loch Ness Monster, old Nessie. Jesus. I mean, there's happenings and stories and reasons, right, associated to it all. Bigfoot. Yeah, I mean, sightings. I know, he saw something. He heard something too. I don't remember those. There are some pretty good big costumes, yeah. It has a little speaker thingy on it, so it makes noise. Oh yeah, they have a lot of like stuff that's realistic, like bears and stuff, decoys. Yeah, deers and ducks and all that. Yeah, I was talking more of a costume. But yeah, they probably do that too in some situations, investigators and stuff. Yeah, they'll go in camouflage or... like Snuffleupagus it. Oh, dear Lord. You probably want to make sure you don't have gas if you're going to go in one of those suits with someone. Now, the snuffleupagus suit, it was 2 people in there, yeah. There's someone farted. Said I quit. Wearing a mask. The mask behind the mask behind the mask. What a dumb Dora. Stupid. That's awesome.
At Lee, we're all about giving you more. With more brands and
Sorry.
hundreds of pre-owned vehicles to choose
You're
from,
welcome.
more expert technicians to help maintain your car's performance,
and more people focused on delivering the best experience possible.
Stop saying I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
Turning now to the deadly Ebola outbreak, which
Sorry.
is spreading rapidly in East
Sorry.
Africa.
Sorry.
is one of the world's deadliest
You're gonna be
diseases,
sorry.
and we can never let it reach
It's
our
just,
shores.
it's habit.
Senator Susan Collins.
I know, it's like someone bumps into you and you're like, I'm sorry. My bad, I was just standing here still and you just ran into me, not even paying attention. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was standing here. Will someone roll the dice so I can move ahead? God damn it.
Susan Collins supported Trump's Medicaid cuts. Healthcare's getting even more expensive. People are losing coverage. But Susan Collins gave Trump a blank check for his war in Iran. Tell Susan Collins to stop siding with Donald Trump.
I think what happened was they cut spending in certain areas, right? I mean, when you see so much is being spent frivolously, right? I mean, there has to be, it looks like cuts, but where there are cuts being made, there's other, right? That's usually what happens sometimes when you're fighting against forces that don't seem to comprehend or have any common sense, and they want to fund dangerous things. It almost, that shift. And to some people, it can seem like cuts. Trash and treasure. I have felt the burn. Ouch. Good morning. What's up? Yeah, I'm a little hoarse and froggy because I've been talking in deeper tones lately. So if I do that for more than a day or two, I start to get really hoarse and froggy. Apparently. Doesn't last long usually. Yeah, once I start to notice those symptoms, I'll just go back to regular, Yeah, it can be a little annoying, but try to soften it.
Because the juggle is real. And the mom guilt is too. Give more love than humanly possible when you feed a Hill's scientifically proven formula. Because
yeah, maybe we'll call it here. Oh, let me see if that guy's still in the area. I don't know if he has. I doubt he has redirect or not, but
Water flow has ceased on our side. Copy, thank you.
It feels like that. So I think it's just a little bit of pollen in the air. Make your throat feel like it's coated. It's coated.
I run a podcast solo.
I am the #1 like on the first view on Dr. Phil's latest post. I got the first like and first view. Oh yeah? Do I need to take a picture to prove it? No, because you can see my screen. Isn't that great? Thank goodness. Where did I put that now? So everybody slow down. Where'd that go? Make sure. Oh, it's here. I thought I did. Okay, maybe not. It's about Gary Breck's biohacked my lab results and blew my mind. Oh, 4 likes now, 5 views. It's going up. No, that's the tagline for the podcast. The Dr. Phil podcast. Gary Brecka biohacked my lab results and blew my mind. Now, see, we just established that you can see my screen. So why are you double tapping me to answer that out loud? Because I know you know the answer. Because you want me to say it for the other listeners. Ah, okay. Yeah, see, I know that. Do you think they understand that yet? Or, I think they're bound and determined to figure out who I'm talking to. And it's that right there. They gotta let the fuck go, yeah? How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Okay.
The world's biggest tournament is bringing together 48 teams from 48 countries with duty.
That's great.
20.
Kevin, come on over here and tell him what time it is. Okay. Oh, that's nice, Kevin. Alright, now get out of here. Got this feeling inside, can't find no balance in my mind. I must be missing the point. I need a coffee and a joint. I got this feeling inside, can't find no balance in my mind. I must be missing the point. I need a coffee and a joint. Coffee and a joint, coffee and a joint.
Just doing a few arm circles and breathing. And clearing up. Yeah, not too, a little bit. I think it's that pollen time of year. Yeah, and I sleep with my window right open and stuff, so usually just have, a little bit of coating and stuff, getting that up off the lines in the morning. I've hacked most of it out. I really like these things. I got this feeling inside. I must be missing the point. Yes, it does. I agree. I need a coffee and a
joint, coffee in the joint, what? Coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint. So I was standing in the corner of the kitchen by myself, eyeing up the pop brownies on the top shelf. I'm thinking maybe just a nibble to do, but I didn't eat dinner, so I gobbled down too. Oh shit, I fucking blew it. Yo, I got to keep this conversation fluid. I'll do how to function. I'm feeling like a clown at a funeral luncheon. I'm a goner, man, I've reached my marijuana maximum consumption. Yeah, goddamn hors d'oeuvre, threw my knife for a curve. But I could be the hero that this party deserves. So I boot and rally, sink the last cup. Turns out it was my team's cup. Fuck. I got this feeling inside, can't find no balance in my mind. I must be missing a point. I need a coffee and a joint. I got this feeling inside, can't find no balance in my mind. I must be missing a point. I need a coffee and a joint. Coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint. What? Coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint. Alright. Coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint. Yo, what? Coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint. Yeah. Coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint. Alright. Coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint. Yeah. Coffee in the joint, coffee in the joint. Coffee in the joint. Yo, that's right. Let's take them out. Man, I'm terrible at smoking weed. That's okay. I'll handle it. Thanks, you.
Gonna take this like way far. It's like S-M-U-G-A-R. Sugar Shack, gonna take this like way far.
Long days call for a Coors banquet. Brewed only with
It all started late on a Saturday night. So who's got these books and who's got the wine? Look out the window, said to my surprise, they can see man in blue and he's flashing lights. He said, no,
you know your body's fucking over with because you're smoking joints and you're rolling splits. And tell me what you think I ought to think of this. I want you to pull out just like I said, or you will be missed.
seeing a Mr. Officer, don't charge me all the time. You got me for possession, but I swear that it's not mine. No matter what you do or say, it's bound to come right back this way. And if you want a moment's peace, this is what you say. Come on in, let's get this party started until the break of dawn. Let's keep this party moving until there's no one holding. Let's get this party started until the break of dawn. Let's keep this party moving. All you got to do is sing that in the version for all. All I wanna do is rock till I do being hot and messing in the sun. Never another beer, drink another booze, and then can't think of another roll.
It does too. Oh my god. It does, just like it. Oh wow. Wowzinator. Wowzer. Wowza. It depends on where you are. How you say wow. 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 Oh, wow. Wow. See, it's totally different. Now, if you say wowzinator, or wowzer, or wowza, you might know where they're coming from. Maybe.
Out of her condo.
I see everything.
You're not going to believe
solidifying
it.
onto
That's next Thursday, on the dock.
Weakening.
Yes, I agree with you, Nima. Everything is solidifying on that side, but everything is disintegrating on the Israeli-US side. Because now we have bitter recriminations between the Zionists and the Donald Trump administration because, there was this JNS summit. I'm not sure where it was, whether it was in the UK or in the United States, where you had the Festival of Zionist Thought. But that they're absolutely hysterical. They're rabid. They're saying the United States must immediately stop negotiations and fight. They have to go with bombardments. They have to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. They have to go with ground troops. And people, voices from Israel are saying that if you're not fighting for us, then you're our enemy as well. On the other hand, the Trump administration also has a military hierarchy to mind, and I think that in the military hierarchy there's a lot of dissent. There's a lot of commanders and soldiers who are not thrilled to be sent to fight a war for Israel and to die there in the current miserable conditions. They've lost use of many of their air bases. I don't know to what extent they have been damaged, but at least some of them have been rendered completely unusable. And meanwhile, Iran is also preparing. And so I think that and also we have to also mention that Israel's government is in trouble, and that some people in the United States, possibly Trump included, think that it's time to effect a regime change in Israel. So there's a internal political infighting going on in Israel. The IDF is suffering terribly in Lebanon, and they are deeply exhausted. There's a lot of resistance to the continuation of war. There's a lot of soldiers going AWOL, absent without leave. Many are not reporting for duty, and they're taking heavy casualties. So I think that from the Iranian side, when they commit to something like a 60-day ceasefire, they tend to honor their commitments, unlike US and Israel. And unless the talks completely break down, I think they will probably stick with this commitment. But at the same time, they're almost certainly preparing for the next phase of the war. As they said, we're negotiating with our finger on the trigger. And when the talks complete, when the negotiations are over, and I have to assume that they will not reach a successful peace agreement, hostilities will resume, and then Iran will continue attacking Israel, most probably. In the meantime, I expect that they are providing certain kinds of support covertly in whatever way they can, without overtly engaging in hostilities against Israel.
We had two mediators in the talks in Switzerland. Alex, one of them was Pakistan, the other Qatar. Two countries, important ones. And what has happened, the Pakistani intelligence, when Asim Munir, the field marshal of Pakistan, was there in Switzerland, their assessment, the intelligence of Pakistan, their assessment was that Israel wanted to assassinate him while he was in Switzerland. So from their side, we don't know if that's right or not, but the assessment, the understanding on the part of the intelligence in Pakistan that Israel, Mossad, was preparing to assassinate him. So they sent a message to Mossad, to Israeli government. If something happens, you're going to be something big happening to your country. And then the other strange thing that has happened during the talks, it was a huge explosion in Qatar. One of the oil facilities was some huge bombardment of some facilities there. Then the Qatari government came out and said it was a technical issue inside the oil facility, which the technical issue, the assessment again on the part of Iranian intelligence is that it was Israel. And Israel did something in Qatar huge. You look at the explosion, it's nothing of a technical issue, that explosion. So it doesn't, all of this, the assessment on the part of Pakistani and Qatari, the explosion in Qatar, it brings some sort of understanding that Israel is trying to do everything to destroy the talks, whatever it is, it's a negotiation, whatever is happening between the two sides. But the main goal is that at the same time, they're trying to do everything in the United States and outside of the United States to make new obstacles. And do you see, as time goes by, the whole region somehow moving against Israel? Because everybody right now is somehow, they are reaching to some sort of understanding that Israel is not, in favor of any sort, because these GCC countries, before this war happening, they thought that Iran is the enemy, Israel is not that much of an enemy. How do you feel about that? How do you see that happening in the region?
Well, we already see initiatives to constitute a West Asian NATO between Turkey and Egypt and Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and Pakistan, I think. Maybe I missed Qatar as well. And they want to create a new security architecture in the region under the leadership of Pakistan. And I think that the reason is because they see that Israel is absolutely rabid. They will not accept any kind of a peace settlement. Israel can practically not exist without war. Arab nations have already, on various occasions, proposed a very, very generous peace agreement to Israel, practically satisfying all of their security requirements, recognition, not a Palestinian state, but maybe an understanding that some point in the future there will be a Palestinian state and we will guarantee your security and all these things. Israel rejected it all. So, and now after waging war on 6 fronts, there's louder and louder drumbeats for war against Turkey. And so everybody in the region sees that Israel is really an incurable threat to their security, that with Israel there, permanent war in the region is practically guaranteed. And they also see that the United States is not an honest broker, and that the United States is neither willing nor able to provide them protection as they believed that they had. Because when the war got going, Americans withdrew critical air defense systems from Arab nations to defend Israel. And so I think that the awareness of this situation has now set in. And all the nations now want to, as a matter of their survival, it's practically an existential matter to them, want to create a new security architecture, and they don't want Israel there anymore. And they don't count on the United States as either a provider of defense or as an honest broker in anything at all. And I think that in this they have full support from China and Russia, who also, for existential reasons, want a new security architecture in the region. And I think that this is why the Israelis are as hysterical and panicked as they are, that they are now ready to wage war on everybody. They're making threats against the United States. They're saying, well, you will see Israel has not yet used all of their weapons. They have much more powerful weapons, and if you don't defend us, then you're the enemy and you will learn your lesson the hard way. They're threatening a false flag attack in the United States because they're saying, oh well, I guess they didn't learn their lesson on 9/11, so maybe they need to relearn that lesson, which is basically a veiled threat to stage another false flag attack in the United States. But I think that the horse is bolted out of the barn. I think that now everybody hates Israel. They know that Israel, if something happens, if a false flag attack does happen, I don't think that the people are going to think that it was a bunch of Arabs with box cutters, or whatever they try to blame, whoever they try to blame it on, which would be Iran. I think that they will consider Israel as the suspect number one. So it's they have completely painted themselves into a corner. And other than dragging the United States back into war with no holds barred, a total war, ground, air, all the ammunitions, Palantir is talking about reinstating the draft so that all the American young men and women go and fight and die for Israel. Without that, they are lost. They are just basically circling the drain, and I don't see how Israel survives this.
Their problem with Turkey, before the fall of Bashar Assad in Syria, the situation between Israel and Turkey was not that critical. And since the fall of Bashar Assad, you see some sort of confrontation between Israel and Turkey. Just getting back, look at all of the statements of the Israeli officials. Look at how drastically those statements have been changing, since the fall of Bashar Assad. It means that the problem right now is the occupation of Syria, and they see Turkey as a party in Syria against Israeli agenda in Syria. That's why because many people are correctly arguing Turkey is talking big but doing nothing practically in terms of sending the Azerbaijani oil to Israel. But when it comes to Syria, it's so serious for Turkey. Turkey is not going to back down on Syria, in my opinion, and Israel knows that. That's why they're saying the next target is going to be Turkey, and we're going to go fight in Turkey. And we had, Jonathan Pollard saying that, at the next fight, the next round is going to be against Turkey. And this is the recipe for disaster for the United States, in my opinion. They have two sort of sections right now, 224 and 662. The two, they want to merge the US military with Israeli one and US intelligence with Israeli one. And Israel is not part of Five Eyes, but they're basically closer to the United States without having these two sections. They're closer, for example, to the United States than New Zealand or Australia, which these two countries are part of Five Eyes, but they want more. They want to officialize it in the United States. I don't know if you saw what has happened in New York. 3 candidates that AIPAC was helping and founding and supporting, they were defeated by landslide in primary. And who was? We had the establishment of Democratic Party against the new movement in the Democratic Party, which is the guy, the new mayor of New York, Mamdani. And they were against AIPAC, not only the establishment of the Democratic Party, against AIPAC. And they won by landslide. This is the reality of what's going on in the United States, not only on the part of Democrats, you see, on the part of Republicans. So they have to solidify something in the United States when it comes to the military, to intelligence, because they are fearing right now. This wasn't the case before. Right now, they see the sea change that is happening within the society in the United States. That is hugely problematic for Israelis. I think they perceive that.
Yes, correct. But you know, I wouldn't perceive all these candidates like Mamdani as some kind of a freedom movement, some movement that's going to deliver us from all these forever wars. It seems to me that there's a civil war in the United States between two, how do you call it? I would say two cabals, two conspiracies. And one is definitely the Zionist conspiracy. But the other one is not really America first, it's not really MAGA, it's more like a Trotskyite communist conspiracy. This is the people like Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, you know, all those people like Susan Rice and James Comey and Mark Carney in Canada. But both of these cabals, their ultimate loyalty is to the City of London, because they are both the Trotskyite movement and the Zionist movement emanated from London, from the British Empire. And I believe that they still have largely control these groups. You know, for example, I think it was very indicative when this whole Albanian affair erupted a few weeks ago, and it turned out that, you know, the Jared Kushner's and Princess Ivanka narrative about how they identified the Sazan Island as a place where they want to build their dream life is that they were on a friend's boat. They stopped over for a swim when they were vacationing on a friend's boat. And who was the friend? Well, the friend was Nathan Rothschild. Okay, so direct link to the City of London. I don't know if Trump is aware of this. I fail to see how he couldn't be aware of it. And then also Mark Carney, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, late John McCain, the people that I would categorize in this Trotskyite conspiracy, they are also back and forth between Washington and London. And so it basically leads to the same epicenter of all these forever wars. The fact that one side wins primary election, I think should not be a comfort to anyone. It's just, you know, because the Trotskyite conspiracy is rabidly obsessed with Ukraine and Russia. The Zionist conspiracy is rabidly obsessed with Israel and Iran, with the Middle East. But it's still that, you know, clash between two systems of governance. And both of these conspiracies basically represent one and the same system of governance. It's just that they have different foreign policy priorities. And I think that both these systems are so deeply entrenched in the American establishment that I don't know how this can be purged for like a genuine MAGA movement and a genuine return to American Republican traditions. But I assume at this stage that it might take a civil war or a revolution. You know, a group of Pentagon generals simply taking over. But, you know, this is, this could start to happen when prices at the gas pumps go over $10 a barrel and $10 a gallon, and people can't afford to buy food for their children. At that point, you know, things could erupt to a much uglier manifestations. But until then, we're just being torn between two sock puppets that both serve the same master.
Yeah, I think some of it you can find it in one of the recent pieces of Fareed Zakaria on CNN. He basically was arguing the war in the Middle East, in the West Asia was lost. Let's get back to Ukraine. That's fine. Let's go. You know, the same people, by the way, the same people that you just mentioned, the Obama and these people who are close, so much close to that sort of mindset. They're talking about, so if we're not able to continue the war in the Middle East because of the reality of what's going on, we can continue the war in Ukraine. And Ukraine is just changing everything. They have changed everything. They're winning.
Oh, they're practically at the gates of Moscow by now.
Yeah, this is. I think that's true because the mindset is the continuation of the war. This war machine should go on and on and on, not bring everything down. This is the problem, I think, for those people who voted for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump basically deceived them because they thought that there would be no war with the Trump administration. People like Tucker Carlson, he said that he's not going to vote for Republican Party anymore. He's not going to vote anybody. For more than, he said, 34 years he voted for Republicans, but he's not going to vote for Democrats, not Republicans, none of them. So this is the new sentiment in the United States. It's not only about in the Republican Party, I would say in Democrats. There are people who don't want any of this. None of these sort of wars. We have Matt Ho, our friend of this podcast, who doesn't want it. These people are anti-war. They don't want war. And they don't see any sort of good thing happening to the United States in a long run, not in a short run. Because they see how China is somehow, just imagine what China is doing. China is not part of any sort of conflict, any war. There's so much focus on their economy, on their production. What do they need? This huge machine, this huge engine needs energy, and they have it. They have it from Russia, they have it from the Middle East. The United States wanted to dominate the Strait of Hormuz. Just imagine if the United States together with Israel could do something to the Strait of Hormuz. That could have been a huge loss for China. And right now that's not happening, and China understands that. These are important issues for China. Energy is the future. Energy is production. And China knows that. But the United States has failed to understand that the future is not about war. Because when you are a superpower, basically look at the military power of the United States going against Iran. Iran is, the defense budget of Saudi Arabia is 10 times the defense budget of Iran. The country is that little when it comes to their defense budget, but you cannot defeat them. This is the new reality.
Yes, you're right, Nima. But the reason why Saudi Arabia's defense budget is 10 times Iranian defense budget is because they are buying weapons from the United States. And this is again one of those effects. Okay, so you have a lot of money. It's sitting in American banks, and we're going to tell you how you may spend it. And so they say, well, we're going to provide you protection, but you need to buy all these weapons from us, and they're the best weapons in the world, the most powerful, high-tech, whiz-bang wonder weapons that ever existed in the history of the universe, but they're a little bit expensive. And so, when they don't allow you to use your money the way you would prefer, then you think like, okay, well, we need security, we need protection. I guess that's what we're gonna be doing. And then you know, like it's the thing of buying bolts and bearings for $1,000 a piece and stuff like that. And obviously, it doesn't serve much purpose. It's like those bodybuilders, you know, that take proteins and they build up their muscles, but it's all basically foam, and they look very strong, but they're not very strong. And at the same time, Iran has been developing their indigenous military technology on a shoestring budget. They have been educating tens, hundreds of thousands of engineers, and all these people work for the defense of their nation, for an existential objective. They don't need multi-million-dollar bonuses. They don't need massive salaries. The state doesn't need to sell the most expensive weapon systems like Ferrari and Lamborghini weapons to the Iranian military. They work for their own defense, so they have tried to do the best with what they have. Same with Russia. And so the difference is enormous, and I think that we've seen it in Ukraine, which has gotten practically an unlimited supply of all the most amazing Western technologies, and they're still losing the war. And you know, all these narratives about Ukraine suddenly turning things around and winning the war, well that's just fantasies.
And then you could have like in dome and above.
The other day
that would create a lot
I was watching Professor Ted Postel. He said the Patriot system is the interception, you know, of the Patriot system is less than 5%, something like that. And the United States is still producing them and selling them to other countries. And
less than 5%.
Less than 5%.
Right,
less
for
than
on land
5%.
too, or just like on the ocean?
He said close to zero.
Or bodies
It was the assessment on the part of Israelis. So the assessment.
And then if there was a flood,
the guy is so expensive. They're producing pack 3 of the Patriot system. The FAT system was so incapable of defending it. That's why Iran destroyed many of these FAT systems. Four of them at least in the war. They're basically hugely producing super expensive weapons. They're not that much capable of defending, but when it comes to buying those weapons, Saudi Arabia, as you mentioned, these beautiful weapons, they're huge. But what is the outcome of that?
Probably 5.
Saudi Arabia this is the problem that
separate living
spaces. I think the continuation of the wars. Do you see the moment that the United States comes to some sort of understanding that the war
is a town, like a
or the military-industrial complex is not anymore the solution for the future of the United States, or you don't see that happening anytime soon? Because basically the main engine, the main motive behind all of these wars, if we assume that the United States basically providing all these weapons to Ukraine, to Israel,
I can
all
see
of
that
these
happening
areas.
on a city
So
level
it's
too,
the military-industrial complex, as our friend Ray McGowan, he keeps saying that. The military-industrial complex. And is that going to change in the United States, the reality of the new wars? Or they're going to find some sort of way to continue the same mindset of the endless wars?
That would be cool.
Nima, I wouldn't be optimistic because the system is very, very deeply entrenched.
Not like simulated one, like see how that would work.
The whole operation is basically a mass-scale looting of the American
taxpayer. Because you think if there was ever a collapse due to wind or earthquake or
we've seen many of these examples, toilet bowls that cost $30,000.
I know, they're totally safe, right?
A little bag of bushings for aircraft that cost $80,000. These are just like little metal pieces that, you can hold it in your hand. It's not high tech anything.
Right? Yeah,
Cost
I know. I mean, just already.
$80,000. I laughed when you said 5% effective because I didn't realize it was that low. I thought it was higher than that. I thought it was 50% or something like that. But what made me laugh is it kind of reminds me of the COVID shots, because it was 100% effective, and then it was 95% effective, and then it was 80% effective, and so forth, until it turned out that they're probably not very effective at all. And so this is the whole system is
page 286
designed to produce very, very expensive solutions to problems, and then to try to destroy competition. Even like their AI. A few months ago, I think before Trump became president, Mark Andreessen had an interview
put to one's oath, swear a witness,
with Joe Rogan.
Commit
and they were talking about AI.
Upon oneself,
and Mark Andreessen, who is one of the, part of this high-tech establishment, the big tech in Silicon Valley, the founder of the most powerful venture capitalist company in the United States, he wanted to start up his own AI company.
At one's head
and
shall
he was
answer
told,
for
no,
on my honor.
Don't do this. AI is going to be dominated by 2 or 3 key players that we control. And so they ended up plowing, I don't know the amount of money, but we're talking literally hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe more than $1 trillion,
word release
into this AI.
There's a lot of cool
and at the same time in China,
negotiation,
the whole system is open source, open to competition. So you have
covenant,
dozens and dozens of AI startups, and one of them, like the one, I'm not, extensively knowledgeable about this industry, but I know that one of them was DeepSeek, which developed their solution for $10 million. They spent $10 million to develop their solution. And now the result is that 80%, fully 80% of Silicon Valley startups in the United States have opted for Chinese AI
promise
platforms.
and release and conditions
and, so
and security.
It's the same whatever stone you turn,
Which page? Okay, 195.
You find the same morass of rot, of corruption, of basically using every technology, every industry as a source of plunder for the top level establishment people. And the result is that they're losing in industry, they're losing in high technology. And this is a verifiable fact.
Solecism,
they're losing in military industries, in defense.
Phraseology.
And the farther this goes,
is
the worse it gets.
Is phraseology an
but
occupation
the
or a
people
study,
who
right?
run
For
the
the
system
study of phrases, phraseology,
have no interest in relinquishing control of the system to a bunch of anonymous startups, a bunch of ordinary engineers and people and technologists. So they will try to use force to eliminate competition. They will try to destroy China, sanction them. They're already trying. They're trying to ban access to chips, ban access to
obscurity,
whatever they think is going to slow down China's progress, but it's failing by now. And I think that, if we take
epigrammatic,
the trajectory of late stage empires as a historical precedent, we see that they can't arrest the collapse of the empire because these vested interests are not willing to let go.
The soul of wit,
and so they hold on, they clutch on the system ever more tightly, but the system kind of disintegrates on their watch. And the Roman Empire never reversed its decline for this exact reason. It basically went from its zenith almost in a straight line into the Dark Ages.
I remember Alex, before the war
dark,
in the Middle East, you said
muddy, clear as mud.
If they go into the Middle East, that would be the
seen
graveyard
through
of the US
a
Empire.
mist. dim, nebulous,
something is
shrouded
deep
in
is happening
mystery,
in West Asia.
undescribable,
And that's why they're talking about new security architecture. They're
opaque,
talking about we have to be independent from the outside, basically the
vague,
United States. And
loose,
there are two ways
mysterious,
of
mystic,
confronting or dealing with the
inexpressible,
issue of the Middle East. Basically, one of them is accepting the new reality
having a double
and
sense,
trying to be part of it, trying to be,
equivocalness,
less damaging to what's going
clamber,
on in that region. As the way,
clamboy,
just look at China, what China is doing. What China was doing in Ukraine. They're basically outside. They're supporting the side that they prefer, but they don't want to manipulate the region. They let the region reshape itself by the players of the region, not from outside. They're not trying to manipulate or force or reshape the region. The United States has to understand that those days of reshaping and
misinterpretation,
dominating the region, those days are over. There are two ways. Are they going to back down? Are they going to be more aggressive? Are they going to double down? What is your understanding of the United States at this current stage?
It's another meaning for
my guess would be that they will double down, that they will not give up.
C-A-T-A-C-H.
They might switch tack, they might change strategies, they might
C-A-T-A-C-H.
try to again infiltrate Iran with
R-E-S-I-S.
separatist groups, terrorist organizations. They might flood it again with the MI6, CIA, Mossad.
It's a rhetorical term in linguistic error referring to the extreme misuse or misapplication of a word, often resulting in a mixed or forced metaphor. It typically occurs when a word's meaning is severely stretched or confused with another term of similar sound or appearance.
The resistance is coalescing, and it's becoming.
That's the one you picked
more
too?
Compact, more cohesive.
On 175, yeah, misinterpretation.
Zionist cabal, they are in a state of panic, and I think that we're basically experiencing their dying agony. And I think that in the dying agony, the animal is extremely dangerous. And I think that they will, rather than backing down and going back home, being
road.
Being a neutral country, minding its own business, building its infrastructure, developing its economy, they will continue to try to reassert their hegemony wherever they can. Right now, the soft target is South America. So they are continuously penetrating South America, looking to take control of all the countries there, and with some success.
Am I pronouncing that right, though?
But South America is not part of the Eurasian landmass, which is the prize.
Catacresis.
I would assume that they're basically going to focus on Brazil, because Brazil is the big fish in Latin America, and they have to do something about it. I don't know what would be the move on the part of the Trump administration. They have 2 years.
In simple terms, catacresis is the misapplication of a word or phrase in a way that defies conventional use.
We know that, as Putin once said,
it makes exaggerated, unusual, or forced comparisons between two ideas or objects that initially seem incorrect but reveal new meanings.
The Trump administration is getting closer to midterm elections, and right after that,
catacresis.
This year, we're going to have the midterm
Word
elections.
of the day.
And going to next year, it's going to be the presidential election, 2025, and 2025, which is one of the main concerns on the part of the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. He's so much coming out the way that he's talking. He's going to all of these podcasts, not only in the United States, outside of British podcasts, American podcasts, describing how beautifully the Trump administration has managed the war so far. And the guy wants to be the next president of the United States. But part of that, in my opinion, with MOU, if you look at the clauses of the document is a huge trap for those people who want to continue the war, in my opinion. Because the first clause says, without Israel, leaving Lebanon totally, there would be no agreement between the two sides. So here comes the two agendas. The fight in the United States, the Trump administration, and the future of the J.D. Vance and those people who want to be the next anti-Israeli agenda. Which one do you think is more powerful right now?
Even though you never needed to, you
I think the Israeli agenda is more powerful because
even though you never
it's not just
needed to
Israel,
feel
the
it.
United States, it's also European nations and the UK. And we don't talk a lot about the British role in all this, but the British play an extremely important role, although they have perfected the ways of concealing their role. So they are almost kind of invisible, but every so often we have leaks of information and reports that show that they play a very active role in all this. In the United States, you have this, as I mentioned, two policy cabals, one which is obsessed with Ukraine and Russia, the let's call them Trotskyites, the other one which is the Zionist conspiracy, which have dramatically lost support among the people. And then you also have maybe the genuine MAGA crowd, people who really want to make the United States great again. Not by being a hegemon, but by returning the United States to their Republican traditions, to being an independent sovereign country, uninvolved with foreign entanglements and wars and alliances and so forth. And so internal political forces in the United States are pulling in three different directions. So I think that's weaker. But Israel is fighting a fight for their existence.
The Nescafe
Zionist
Blonde
project,
Instant,
meaning Israel
with
plus its Western backers in the UK, in the United States, in Europe,
I love that.
India, they
I
are
like the sweet
desperate
creamy and the vanilla
to
too.
protect Israel and to prevent its collapse. So I think that they are more determined and they are more
Probably
powerful
get
in
that
that
next
sense.
time.
To the point where they're prepared to stage major false flag attacks
Yeah, they
in the
do.
West to galvanize support for Israel. But I think that they're all losing. They're all losing. They're on. It's like a losing trajectory that
How about?
I don't even see how they could possibly reverse it. And I think that the only way they could reverse it is if they manage to somehow completely take control of the narrative, institute some kind of a very heavy-handed censorship regime, like basically go into totalitarianism. And then, the totalitarian state throwing their full support behind Israel and committing all the resources of Western Europe, United Kingdom, United States, Canada, Australia, India, everybody on that side behind Israel. I think it's going to be very difficult to make that happen.
Alex, during the war between Iran and the United States, I basically thought that Europeans are helping the United States and Israel when it comes to the intelligence and defensive part of the war. But yesterday we learned officially from the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, he said that something like between 4,000 to 5,000 military flights were conducted from various European bases to support the operation against Iran. This is huge, the statement, not only, because we were speculating on that, but these are, the guy is the head of NATO, the Secretary General of NATO. And when he says that, it seems that it's so close to the reality. He said 500 of those flights were from Italy. Italy was he said, no, we're not part of this, we're not doing it. Then they came out after the interview Mark Rutte had on Fox and said, Italy said, no, these numbers are not correct. But this is the complicity of Europe in what was happening in the Middle East. You know, they were part of the operations. That's why they knew how deep is the problem for the United States. That's why they didn't, remember those days that Donald Trump was begging Europeans to come and open up the Strait of Hormuz for us. And you see that, it's just amazing what has happened. And for those people who are delusional in Iran, in my opinion, because we have these sort of liberals who think that let's get closer to the West, let's do this and that, Europeans are somehow different, they didn't go offensive. What do you make of what has happened?
No, basically European nations are vassals of the United States. And if the United States tells them to stand on their heads,
France,
they're all
the UK,
going to
and
stand on their
Spain
heads.
are seeing record high temperatures as heat wave grips Western
I'll
Europe.
give you an example from 2013. Remember
Had a
there was a
crisis.
hunt for Edward Snowden. And when they were hunting to Edward Snowden, at some point they had a tip of the Snowden was flying on President Evo Morales' Bolivian president's private jet from Russia returning to Bolivia.
Significato.
And normally, he has diplomatic immunity. He's a president of a country. Open skies treaties. The flight cannot be intercepted. They cannot prevent him by law. This is international law. They cannot prevent him from flying back to his country. When the United States said, close the airspace to them, to Evo Morales, because we want to search his aircraft, Italy, Austria, France, Belgium, I think, Spain, a whole bunch of European countries that his flight was going to immediately comply with the American request. They closed the airspace to Evo Morales' flight, and they forced him to land in Vienna, where they held Evo Morales for 14 hours while they searched his aircraft. Complete and total breach of international law, of open skies treaties. But because the United States said, you're going to be doing this, they complied without question. There was no, this is against international law. No, it isn't if we tell you. It's not international law, it's the rules. We are the rules-based order, and if we tell you that the rule is you go to war against Iran, you go to war against Iran. And maybe it's not possible to send troops to Iran. Large-scale mobilization because the public opinion wouldn't support it. But whatever can be done covertly is done covertly. So we're going to use your facilities, we're going to use your weapons, we're going to use your airports, your aircraft, your pilots, everything that they might be able to conceal from the people. It's all going to be done. Nobody's going to be asking any question. Nobody's going to be resisting. Except thankfully, we live in an age when they get found out very quickly. And that's very important, actually.
Thank you so much, Alex, for being with us today. I know that it's too hot there.
It's really hot. It's really oppressive. I wish you could send some fresh air from Brazil.
Yeah, here is. The seasons are different.
Yeah.
Southern part and the northern.
You're on the wrong side of the globe.
Yeah. We are the global south. The real.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you, Nima. Until the next time, very, very warm greetings from Monaco to everyone out there.
Yeah.
At one moment, it looked like the driver might stop, but then he took off again without hesitation.
The driving kept getting more unpredictable, and it was clear he wasn't thinking about anything except getting away.
Frizzly. Copy. Is on 83. Yeah, because that's the one we're doing right now in the copybook.
Graham Plattner blamed women for getting raped. Who says something like that? Plattner said women should take some responsibility for themselves and not get so effed up they wind up having sex with someone they don't mean to. What's wrong with this guy? Plattner said to avoid rape, women should act like an adult for F's sake. He's an awful person. Graham Plattner is dangerous. I would never vote for Graham Plattner. Pine Tree Results PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Santa Anita. Santa Susanna? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, we need one on this side of the valley. I'm sure they won't mind. Probably. Yeah. I'm sure that anybody that lives out here is probably going to be like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure they're socialists. Yeah, they'll be like, oh, okay, if I have to. For the good. Yeah. Or you'll do that for me. Yeah. Are you going to give me a statue? Because apparently that's important to them. Yeah. Well, the warm fuzzy is for like the common folks, but if you're above and beyond warm fuzzy, you get a statue. Yeah. No, you're not supposed to help them. You're supposed to love them. What? It is going to be the beautiful 101 freeway in the hills of Wood. It's going to be Woodland Hills. Woodland Hills. Woodland Hills 101. Let's park here so technically we are correct.
Troopers executed a pit maneuver, forcing the Range Rover onto the shoulder where it slammed into a boat on a trailer and came to a stop. Officers moved in quickly, pulled the driver out, and after a brief struggle, got him into custody. He was treated at the scene and later admitted he had taken a high dose of Adderall before the chase. Charges: fleeing and eluding, reckless driving, resisting arrest. Driving under the influence, he pushed the vehicle and himself past the limit. In the end, the chase stopped, but the consequences didn't. On June 20th, 2023, in Arkansas, Trooper T. Grant responded to assist Drug Task Force agents already in pursuit of a silver Chevy Impala. The vehicle was heading northbound on Highway 63 at high speed, driving recklessly. Trooper Grant took over as primary and moved in behind the car. From that point on, it was clear this wasn't going to end with a simple stop.
The 101 clearly on peptides this morning. Look at that. Roxy.
Speed, moving aggressively as it tried to stay ahead. During the pursuit, a passenger threw a black bag out of the window, which was later recovered by another trooper.
What makes Woodlands Senior Living Maine's premier scene?
Still refusing to stop.
Senate, of course, really quite enlightening and quite interesting. How did that come about, and how were you invited?
It came about because Senator Ron Johnson really wanted to make this an issue, and when I went there, it was very obvious. You have the Democrats there who all got their heads in the sand, that everything is wonderful, millions of lives saved, so effective, and he's got he knows, he really knows what's going on. And it was, he's been talking, of course, because Asim Mahootra has been involved with Robert Kennedy, and there was some talk about this, and so they felt they really ought to have a session in the Senate, and that was arranged, and they came back and forth for the days, and then we had these other people who got really fantastic stories from a different point of view, you know, with Ellen Leary with his molecular work. I mean, that's really, really important at the scientific level. And then the fact that they've interfered with the science, the publication of the immunological effects of the microbiome, and the epidemiology clearly showing the link. It's just pure suppression. And so that was the story he wanted to get across, actually. So, yeah.
And given that we're talking about the United States Senate, I mean, I'm like you, I refuse to pay my television license now, but as far as I know, the hearings have not been covered by any mainstream media outlets, at least not to any degree. Well, I don't think they've been covered at all, as far as I'm aware. And, you know, the conspiracy of silence continues, which is totally outrageous.
It is outrageous. In fact, GB News was the only one that did cover it, because we went on there, Asim and I went on there immediately after leaving the Senate to their studio in Washington. And even then, they said they couldn't do it live, it'd have to get bypassed, and I knew the suppression was going on. And I said, I really don't think there could possibly be a law that you're not allowed to report what is an open mic recorded session for everybody in the Senate. Hopefully that's how it's been interpreted.
Well, I've put clips from yourself and the other doctors there onto YouTube, and so far that's been absolutely fine. So it seems like it's free to recirculate it.
Yes.
So other program makers are free to use it. It's just a case of if they choose to use it. Now, the main thing was, in your deputation, Gus, beginning in 2021, you're a scientist. Scientists observe things. That's hopefully what scientists do. What did you observe, and why did it concern you?
What I observed was just relapses in my melanoma patients, all successfully put into complete disease-free status with immunotherapy, which some of them, it was very old immunotherapy, but before it became accepted. And I just thought that something is going on here. 6 patients in 6 weeks, between 3 and 18 years, was just it's just a big flag.
This hadn't happened in the past 10 years of looking after this cohort of patients.
This happens about once every 2 or 3 years, and interestingly, it's always been associated with the patients getting very depressed about things, death or debt, what have you. And we know that link with the immune response, so it wasn't present in any of these people. That was the big observation.
And you had basically a cohort of them relapsing pretty well at the same time.
And so I asked what had happened in the last few weeks, and they all said nothing. I had to have the COVID jab as normal because I'm at risk, and I said, well, how many? 3, 4, and not one of them had just the 2 jabs. It was all the third one. And then with my T-cell experience, I immediately thought, oh, I wonder if it's actually suppressing the T-cell response. So we looked into that, and it appeared to be the case. But we never took it further from the work that we were doing, because of the work that came out of Madrid with Eunice Bentis and his group. It's just fantastic, showing, well, the title said it all, T-cell exhaustion after the 3rd SARS-2 vaccine in cancer patients. It was just, basically, at that time, that was all I needed. And I tried to cry foul, stop, this is going to be a disaster. And I was totally ignored. I was told by the hierarchy in the hospital when I was NHS at the time that I had to prove it. I said, I shouldn't have to prove this. This is a big red flag. And I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were all programmed that the line was, cancer patients at risk, they must have their boosters. I said, no, the boosters is suppressing their T-cell response, and it means they can't fight the new viruses either, and it's taken the control of the cancer away, because with these cancers, the melanoma, we know it never ever 100% goes away, because I remember seeing relapses when I used to work closely with Donald Morton in the United States. He had a relapse 40 years after because of some event that had led to immune suppression. And they showed it was the same because they compared molecularly the stored sample from 40 years ago, and it was the identical. It wasn't a new melanoma, it was a one. And that just really shook us to the core, really, that we never got rid of the cancer, we just controlled it.
The same genetic profile, but 40 years later.
Exactly, the same genetic profile.
So, before the COVID vaccines had essentially interfered with T-cell function, am I right in thinking it was the T-cells that were actively suppressing the malignant cells and keeping these patients alive for a long, long time? Because I've seen patients with melanoma die within a year.
Well, that's what used to happen before we started to get on top of it with the immunotherapy. And then I started 30 years ago or so, and I was using BCG in cells, and then the heat-killed mycobacteria, and then we were given peptides and proteins, and I took part in these really big trials, multinational trials of famous ones, which all hit the dust, Marge, Mart, NYESO, etc. It seemed that the more sophisticated and the more targeted they were, the less likely they were to be effective. They might work for a few weeks, but the tumours escaped by 3 months. So we started boosting them with things like low-dose interleukin-2, what have you, and started to get some very good responses. And so that's what I'm very pleased that we have done. These patients were all told that they would be lucky to do 2 years, and there are many of them now that are coming up for 20 years.
No, it's very impressive. So you basically made this discovery about the COVID vaccines suppressing the T cells, therefore suppressing all immunity and suppressing the active immune response against cancer, allowing the cancer to come back. You told the hospital authorities. Who else did you tell at that time, or did you keep it quiet?
No, we wrote a letter to the BMJ.
Yeah.
And
this is the leading medical journal in the UK, basically.
Oh, it's meant to be. And so it kind of appeared online and then disappeared.
Yeah.
But then lots of people had seen it, and I got contacted by people all over the world, not just throughout the UK, saying, we are seeing exactly the same thing. You know, so I knew then that this was genuine. They were describing exactly the same sort of thing. And then I got contacted by people outside of melanoma, lymphoma. I was actually seeing it going, although I didn't do primary lymphoma, I was seeing people developing lymphoma after the booster vaccines. And the way I found out about it was by the pharma pharmacist at another hospital told me that 4 of the staff of that hospital had gone down with lymphoma after the booster vaccines. Well, of course, a lymphoma, which is B cells from that, but they're controlled by T cells. You need to have a really good T cell response. So again, that made the difference. And I would say the turning point for me probably was realising that the people dealing with colorectal cancer, they basically said, since of the boosters rolled out, we know the incidence was increasing in younger people for the last 10-15 years. I mean, that is a fact.
There's been that trend, hasn't there? Yeah.
Suddenly got worse. They were seeing what they call turbo cancers, and what we're now told to use the correct accepted term is hyperprogression, because ironically we see a small percentage of cases enter hyperprogression after having immunotherapy, which is designed to cure them, but for some reason it tips the balance the other way. And also
it's perturbation of the immune system, isn't it?
Yeah. And he said we're seeing them at presenting at stage 4 much more frequently, whereas in the older days, I mean, the surgeons were used to the colon cancer, local symptoms, stage it, cut it out, cut out the nodes, but they're safe. And then it can progress after chemo and it will go to the liver. But they were seeing, and I've spoken to so many people who say more and more, is they're seeing it where it's already gone to the liver by the time they get to see it. So this is a big clinical change. So you have to ask, why? What's changed? And they have all come to the conclusion, and they have all reported it, and they've all been told to be quiet. Everybody wants to be quiet. This is something that's killing people. I mean, and I use the word, it is killing. I've had it's now 3 friends that I know who have died of cancer after having a booster vaccine, and they all knew it was the booster vaccine because they felt awful. And it just got worse. And one of them, I diagnosed that he'd had a post-vaccine long COVID syndrome until he started complaining of severe back pain. Then I knew that something else was going on. And this, again, change in clinical presentation. The scans revealed the spine and the pelvis completely riddled with cancer. And one of my best friends, this was put down to being due to a melanoma, which is a melanoma that had years ago, which I confidently predicted is very, very thin, would never cause any further problem. So it shows you the power of that to disturb what's controlling him well. Now, I look for patterns. I mean, pattern recognition is what makes a good physician. It's not adherence to protocol or textbooks.
Yes.
And I thought, I have never seen this before. I've probably seen more melanoma patients than anybody looking at this, with a very few exceptions. And melanoma patients presenting with bone lesions, I go back to my experience, they're usually single spies, or 2 or 3 of them, not dozens, all in the same part of the bone. And this is when I started to get very suspicious, and I went back and I researched, and I found a paper that says messenger RNA vaccines cause severe bone deformities in mice and rats. Now that should have been a red flag. So here I am seeing multiple bone mets for the first time ever in melanoma. I've also seen them in other conditions like myeloma, etc. But never before in this melanoma, which meant to me there was something else going on. Because that messenger RNA was deforming bones.
Which gave the cancer kind of somewhere to sit, really, almost like an ecological niche for it to fit into.
It can only speculate, wild speculation perhaps, but I do think the fact that it's firmly established that messenger RNA causes severe bone deformities and messenger RNA boosters are associated with multiple bone metastases. Until somebody shows me they're not related, I will continue to have those 2 under investigation.
Do you suspect this is all mRNA vaccines, or do you think it's something which is specific to the COVID and the spike protein production?
It's a very good question. It is when we first analysed the spike protein, there were two things that came up apart from the fact it got all these inserts in. But the main thing was that 80% of it was homologous to human epitopes, which meant it should never even have been considered. Yet it became the gold standard, so I never had to work that. I did not pick then that it would likely to cause cancer. It's interesting, I did not pick that. But I said if you did have a cancer, it would actually fuel it, because it causes marked activation, inflammation and microclotting. All of the above will fuel a cancer if you already have it. It won't actually cause it, but it will fuel it. And what has happened with the messenger RNA is that we now know the messenger RNA insert into your DNA, replicate, and people say there's no evidence. Yes, there is. The last paper in the literature is 700 days. They can still find it after the thing. It's just been surpassed at the Boston meeting I was at. It was 3.5 years. They still were able to identify.
I got this. It's for your feet, and it has all these little bumpy things on it. You can put it on the floor, and you can also use it on the back of your neck and too. Yeah, it's good for like acupressure and stuff. I like this one. This one is called FlexWorks. I think I got it at bonkers, Kohl's or Walmart. I want to say, yeah, Kohl's or Walmart. It has like liquid, it has like a little bit of water in it. Yeah, so you can roll it on the floor, on your feet, put it on the back of your neck. Yeah, like if you're laying on your back and you place that, it rests right in the back of your neck area. Oh, it feels so good, and you can kind of roll it back and forth, up and down the neck. It gets into the tissues and lymph nodes and stuff really good.
Doctors, and they don't see it. Well, we know why they don't see it, because they don't look and they don't ask, and they're not.
Yeah, we actually did a video on this yesterday.
7 or 10 minutes.
It's the only video I've made. But I actually genuinely, I wasn't acting, I genuinely started laughing halfway through the video. The preposterous replies of Dr. Julie Garlow. Unbelievable, laughable, you know. So someone who's a fellow of this and a fellow of that and the other, and yet she didn't know the most basic schoolgirl biology, you know, or appeared not to know, or maybe she. I suppose saying it's a very stressful occasion. Let's be gracious to her. She probably just forgot.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, you cannot say when you ask the real poignant question, Ron. You know, tell us what's in the vaccine. She couldn't answer that. It means anybody with even a O-level understanding of biology should be able to say, well, one of them is an adenovirus, one, an AstraZeneca, mainly discontinued, and the vast majority of the others are messenger RNA, for which there's a great deal of controversy as to whether it is any better than anything else. I mean, that's the very minimum answer I expect anybody to do. Couldn't even do that.
Yeah, and of course the Johnson & Johnson and the AstraZeneca were very similar vaccines. So basically you noticed this turbo cancer, this hyperprogression. So you had two astute clinical observations. The first one about the perturbing of the T cells and the recurrence of dormant cancers that were in remission. And then these other, I hate the term, but yeah, hyperprogressive does describe it, doesn't it? And this includes breast, prostate, pancreas, lymphoma, gallbladder, glioma, and bladder cancers. And I personally have come across a few cases, terrible cases of acute myeloid leukemia as well.
Yes.
Terrible cases with death occurring within weeks. And again, is this T cell suppression mechanism, could that also account for the acute leukemias, do you think?
Well, it could, but I strongly suspect there's something else going on as well, especially with the marrow. I mean, I know people who's after the booster, they come out in really aggressive myeloma, And, some of them might have had it, they have a proclivity, perhaps, these people, and it's in the family, it's well controlled. And then something happens in that control, whether it be the T-cell suppression, or, and this is the big worry I have, is we had Aldiri, Wafik Aldiri, who's the absolute molecular expert on tumour suppression genes, tell us that the spike protein, if it's inserted anywhere near suppressor gene, it doesn't even have to bind it. It just has to be near. It can interfere with the signalling pathway, whereby it suppresses neo-oncogenic events at the molecular level. And of course the T-cell can do it at the cellular level. So
right, yeah, so there's two things going on here. There's the T-cell suppressing cancers that are already there, and if you, normally my cancer, my anti-cancer genes, as it were, are sort of working, or the tumour suppressor genes. Happily they're suppressing tumours, but if anything's near them in the genetic material, that can alter the function of the tumour suppressor genes, and if the tumour suppressor genes aren't suppressing the tumours can then come, including bone marrow malignancies.
Basically any tumour at any site. When I first saw the Japanese data, I'll be honest with you, I was horrified because I realised that things were far worse than I feared, because the tumours were not confined to those we know are controlled by T-cell suppression. So they weren't just melanomas and lymphomas.
Right.
With the entire spectrum, plus rare tumours, you don't expect to see. We are now seeing an enormous number of rare tumours.
For example?
Tumours of the, say, endocrine system and carotid,
salivary glands.
Yes, I mean, ones which are rare, but they're suddenly coming. They came out on that list. But put it in perspective. There are an enormous number of lung, breast, colorectal, pancreatic, bile, ovarian. I mean, the whole lot. And I don't believe that can be explained just by T-cell.
No, so there's several responses going on here. Because, we don't want to talk about individuals, but, there has been a lot of publicity about individuals, and we believe that some of these individuals have really quite rare histologies that you wouldn't expect to see in a person of that background health and that age, which is, it's quite tragic if we're seeing a recurrence in all of these common cancers and more new, unusual cancers. Which could easily get missed. I mean, GPs, for example, won't have, how many GPs have got experience of parotid salivary gland cancers? Well, probably not very many. I mean, I can't think I've seen a case. Obviously, you as an oncologist.
This is what I mean by rare cancer. I would call rare cancers are the ones that your jobbing oncologist only sees very rarely. And now this appears to be they're more common. But then the cancer incidence is more common. And this is one, which is incredible, going back to the Senate, where these people denied there was any increase in cancer. And Ron Johnson, well prepared, has to have a flip chart. So, how can you not be aware of this? And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who don't want to know. It's like they've been instructed, nothing to see here. And that is not the job of a scientist. It's not the job of a doctor who wants to do the best for the patient.
I see no ships, there's nothing there. Well, try your other eye.
And I know a lot of them know, but they're very worried about speaking out.
I know.
I've had more than one patient who has succumbed to lymphoma. They're not my patients, but I know them. And I have said, have you asked your oncologist what is likely to be the cause? And two of them told me, with different oncologists, and they said, oh yes, they said it's almost certainly as a result of the COVID booster because they're seeing so many similar cases. So why has it not been stopped?
Yeah.
Can you see, Mike, this? I cannot believe people in a position of power. if I was the chief medical officer and I heard of one or two cases like that, I would be immediately down the MHRA and realise they'd been sitting on thousands of yellow cards, and I would immediately call a halt to it, because that's what they do with a drug that causes sudden unexpected deformity, like thalidomide, although it took them a long time to do that. But that is what they're meant to do, is to prevent things getting worse. It's not to speculate that this is yet another conspiracy theory and we'll let the next government deal with it. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I mean, you would think it would be uncomfortable sitting on 48,000 yellow cards reporting AstraZeneca. And all of which were red flags.
And how can you be chief medical officer or chief scientific officer and be aware that your GPs are pumping in to the population boosters every 6 months, knowing that it increases the death rate, unless that is the plan?
It really is. It's really hard to explain, isn't it? It's just...
Yeah, it really is. You have to actually consider that there's clearly no medical or scientific rationale for defending this. There's absolutely zero. So are you going along with an intention to reduce the pension bill or something along those lines? I think you have to ask.
I mean, the very best you can say is some bizarre, negligent group think. And we could say a lot worse.
It started as a routine stop.
Ministry of Truth. It really. I've just been going over some more of. I mean, this is now reading like a prophecy.
That book.
It really is uncanny.
It is uncanny. And do you know what I found really remarkable in that book? Just because I think it encapsulates it. He suddenly realised he's in prison for not thinking the right thing, and he's in prison with lots of multiple murderers, rapists and everything, and when the prison gets overcrowded they let them out, not him for his thoughts. How similar is that to Starmer?
That's ringing a vague bell, isn't it? Or more than a vague bell. That's exactly what they did, isn't it? After the Southport riots, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, they let known murderers, rapists out to make room for people who had naughty thoughts.
Well, wrong thought. You have to think the right thought. I mean that was published in 1948, and it's uncannily prophetic. It really is uncannily prophetic. Yeah. So, talking of prophecies, you noticed that 80% of the biochemistry of the molecular architecture of the spike protein was the same as human tissues.
Right. Yes. Let me just put it in perspective. I didn't notice this. But my colleague Birger Sorensen, who's a biophysicist with whom I was working on HIV vaccines, who said that we both have come to the same conclusion, and that conclusion is that you could only conclude at the time that Dr. Fauci was either incredibly stupid or the last thing he wanted was a HIV vaccine, because we said you never use the whole envelope for a vaccine. It's just too many antigens. No human would cope with that for protection. You have to select a very few and boost the T-cell response.
Well, you'd have to be making 1,000 different antibodies or so, wouldn't you?
Yes. So, and Fauci did that again and again, about 3 major iterations, worldwide big randomized studies. Not one of them came to fruition because they were all stopped because the vaccine caused more HIV infection than the placebo arm. And so they killed it before it was significant in every single case. And he and the Gates Foundation turned down our approaches for support well over 20 years. We've tried 3 times with lots of evidence, and all they said, it's a very good plan B, but we don't need one. I mean, so I suddenly realised, what we were dealing with. So, get back to
the antiretroviral drugs were quite expensive, weren't they?
Yeah, but get back to your question about the 80%. So he'd already worked out that this spike protein was very much like HIV. The last thing he wanted was all of it. So he wanted to analyse the core bits. And one of the things of doing this, and this is just routine, he put it through a thing called blast analysis. So he did that. I didn't do it, but I'm switched on enough to understand. I get lots of information what it means. That's where my main ability, actually dealing with tiny detail or an electron here or there. That's not me. But I said this is frightening. I've never seen anything so highly.
Well, what's the blast analysis, Chris? Just unpack that.
Well, basically, it's putting it through a big computer program where you just throw it at lots and lots of sequences to see if there's any significant.
Oh, I see. Looking for the matches. It's a bit like playing Snap.
We're not putting it up there and shooting it with a gun, but
yeah. So
it's
a bit like that molecule in your pancreas. It's a bit like that molecule in your kidney. It's a bit like that molecule in your brain.
Put it through a program that literally does a blast and it came back and said, "Hey, it's 79%." So I rounded up to 80. 79% of this is homologous to known human epitopes. You know, basically, if you were to ask AI with this, it would say, "Do not use this as a vaccine. You will get every autoimmune disease under the sun." And that's exactly.
So you're guaranteed autoimmunity, basically.
Yeah, guaranteed autoimmunity. And indeed, even on the VAERS website, there's 131 autoimmune diseases listed as side effects to the vaccine, and that's about as many as there are.
Yeah. So these spike proteins are so similar to many human tissues, where when the immune system makes antibodies to the spike protein, it has cross-reactivity with many human proteins, and beats them up because it thinks they're foreign.
I mean, and it does do the entire spectrum, which is why they've been trying to cover it up and say, "Oh, these are extremely rare." But if you actually add all the 131 autoimmune diseases that have been linked to the vaccine into one, I think it would come to around a sixth or a seventh of everybody. They might have severe variants or just mild variants, very mild. But it is a flag saying, no, do not proceed. We cannot deal with that. And the other thing that really annoys me with the, I was going to say simpletons that run our health service, is not
fair comment
with that. Because how can they say you've got to get the vaccine to save the health service? Well, I personally know people who have been hospitalised for months, who are now on autoimmune treatment requiring anti-TNF weekly at
sophisticated treatments.
The knock-on effect of the costs on the NHS of this is horrendous, and that's before we come to any link with cancer. You've got to think the autoimmune diseases and the cardiovascular thing. People who've been in hospital for months because of strokes induced by the AstraZeneca, and that's well documented.
Massive nursing and medical care for years.
Yeah, and myocarditis in the young people, and everyone's saying, well, it's rare and it's mild. Mild myocarditis is like mild pregnancy or mild death.
Mild forgetting your parachute when you fall out of an aeroplane.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, and we can still identify it on MRI in these young people who had it, months and months later.
And the idea that you've now got essentially a potential ectopic electrical foci in the myocardium means that surely it's got to mean that atrial or ventricular fibrillation is a much more likely event, especially if the myocardium was challenged by illness or toxins or hypoxia.
I bump into people in my village regularly who've seen me with you or heard about what have you, saying that, that one, they really like listening to the truth, but two, they say, ever since I had that vaccine, I went into unbelievable tachycardia, and they kind of treated it, but I'm still in atrial fibrillation, and I'm no longer as fit as I used to be. If I do exert myself, then the tachycardia comes back, and that is all due to the vaccine. But
exertional tachycardia,
the GP says, well, it might be related, but it's only mild. But you must have the booster because that will protect you. I mean, and they've conditioned people into having a vaccine, getting ill with something dreadful, and the patient comes to the conclusion, thank God I had the vaccine, otherwise I could have died from this. I actually had a colleague tell me that to my face, and it was like, I just needed to get 1984 out. I said, have you read this? What what is going on.
Yeah. An illusion is the misrepresentation of actual events.
Exactly.
Which leads to a delusion, which is a false belief. Yeah, right. One question in my mind, Gus. We know that spike protein is still in the bodies of patients who've been vaccinated. We now know up to 3 years. Now, is this because the pseudouridine makes the RNA live for a long time in the cytosol of the cell? Or do you feel this is more definitive proof of reverse transcription, where the genetic information from the vaccine has gone into the person's DNA? Because to me, if it's 3 years later, I can't imagine RNA, even with a pseudouridine, hanging around for 3 years. I think this is evidence of reverse transcriptase. Reverse transcription? What's your thinking?
Well, it's a very erudite question, and I think it's hard to be absolutely sure. I would say that both are likely to be right, but when it's coming up to 3 years, etc., I think it has to be integrated. Integrated. But if it wasn't for the stability of the pseudouridine, it would never have got integrated.
In the first place.
But other people would say, oh no, it would, because they used LNP particles, these lipid nanoparticles. They're what gets it into the cell.
Yeah.
Well, out, and a reverse transcription event could happen anyway, because there are endogenous retroviruses and everything in every cell. All sorts of things are possible.
Yes. And a lot of people think that the cell's own biochemistry produces some reverse transcriptase as well.
Yes, they do.
So it certainly seems to happen in white blood cells, where you get acquired longevity of the immune memory.
And certainly and certainly I did an awful lot of virus hunting after HIV. We're looking for retroviruses and everything, and we postulated they could cause lots of disease that we didn't really know the cause of, and it was one of the routes we went down was multiple sclerosis, and it wasn't just me. It was working with lots of people who were at the top of that field, and some of them felt it had to be a virus at any rate. So looking at this, we came to the conclusion that it had to be at least 2 hits, because the link with EBV, Epstein-Barr virus, is absolute. You never get an MS without that. But 90% of us have got it, and we don't have multiple sclerosis.
Or have had it, yeah. I mean, virtually everyone will have antibodies.
And so we looked for a signature. We found a very faint signature, but not convincing. There's a group in France went on really, really in depth, and they found retroviruses in multiple sclerosis patients. But these were endogenous retroviruses, which are part of the genome asleep, so they had been activated. So as soon as you are aware that can happen and does happen,
right? So that means that this reversing transcriptase enzyme,
exactly,
it's knocking around, yeah.
So the number of possibilities that integrated messenger RNA could have, there's just so many knock-on effects that we can't even imagine, because there's so many possibilities.
And despite all the personal tragedies and the medical tragedies we've seen, this is exactly how science should progress. Looking at this,
yes.
Is this a revival of sort of Lamarckism? The reason the giraffe's got a long neck is it's stretched up for lots of generations to get there.
Well, that's the standard.
It's interesting.
That's the standard of medical leadership we have at the moment.
Very much so. Bury new information, don't dare ask questions, sit down, shut up and do as you're told.
And I think they're all guilty, and I now openly state that for whatever reasons, I don't believe any of them could be that stupid. I really find...
Well, this is really hard to explain. They appear to be. I mean, people like Patrick Vallance and Chris Whitty, they're both consultant physicians in their time.
Yes.
I don't think you could be totally stupid and be a consultant physician.
No. And they both said sensible things at some stage in the early.
Yes.
They both said sensible things about herd immunity and letting go through, and and then they all reversed it. They all reversed it and insisted. The big thing behind the pandemic is we've spent 2 decades on this wonderful technology, messenger RNA, and we can't get it through any of the regulatory authorities. We need a good excuse. So COVID was an excuse to get this through on the grounds it was a pandemic, when it couldn't be got through for cancer. And I know that because I sat in the scientific board of a messenger RNA company that was targeting cancer, and they couldn't get through. And it was then I learnt enough to realise the whole project was doomed. But everybody seems to...
This was... When did you realise that, Gus?
When did I realise?
Yeah.
That the I realised the project was doomed when I was speaking to people who really understood what the problems were, the need to stabilise with pseudouridine and everything, and the inability to switch it off. Now, I've previously worked on a gene therapy project, which actually it was quite successful and was commercialised, what have you, and it used a herpes virus as a gene therapy vector. And the beauty of that was that being a herpes virus, it had a gene in it that we could switch off using an antiviral. So if it got...
so you could switch off the production.
Put the antiviral and the whole thing would fall apart, disappear and go. That is what they should have had for messenger RNA technology. But we haven't been doing it for 20 years and they haven't got it, means you're never going to get it, I believe.
Yeah. So you realised that, what, in the noughties or 2020, before the pandemic?
No, with messenger RNA technology, it was about 9 years ago.
Right, okay, so it's well pre-pandemic.
And that's when I left the scientific advisory board, along with others who came to the same conclusion.
Yeah. What was the experience like in the Senate? Did you enjoy it? Did they look after you? Did they give you nice cups of tea? Did they feed you nice sandwiches?
What being on a scientific board?
No, in the Senate. On your visit to the Senate.
Senate's nice.
Yeah. I'm just hoping the Americans looked after you.
No. You got some water if you're thirsty. That was it. That was it.
So you have to find your own way there. You have to find your own hotel.
Yeah, you had to do everything. For some reason or other, it goes down as corruption if they pay your expenses.
I was expecting you got full business class expenses.
But this is what's really interesting. There are people out there who are so keen for us to get a message across that I was contacted. So-and-so pay all your flights, so-and-so's accommodation. Wow, it's incredible. It is incredible the feeling out there amongst very rich people who feel this has got to come out. And if you want to do something like this, these people have got funds, they'll pay for you to do this.
It really is reassuring, isn't it?
Yeah.
That really is. Yeah, that gives you a good feeling to know that there's people with power, even if it's just financial power, that can still do good in the world. They can use the resources for good rather than the self that we see from so many of our other leaders.
So I was very, very grateful that, and I met a couple of these people too, and it is incredible. They're very successful in everything they do, but they are now completely focused on us getting our message out there. So if anybody, and it seems to be germinating now. The more we talk, the more people come along and will join us. And I think I mentioned this before, but I said, one of the things I have learned from all this is the higher up, the more university educated you are, the higher up the ladder you are, a professor or a super consultant in the NHS or a legal profession, what have you, the more dumb you are about what's going on. Because what I find interesting, I go into a local pub where there's very few people of university education there, and but they're all very successful, pragmatic people, builders, plumbers, policemen, and all sorts of people there. They all know.
Yeah, I know.
They all know the whole thing is a scam and that vaccines don't work. There's none of them there had a booster vaccine since I've started to talk. And when I first gave them an explanation why that they shouldn't have any more vaccines, I couldn't buy a drink. Here's it. Oh,
yeah.
They just loved somebody who knew what they were talking about, explained why their gut feeling was correct.
Yeah. Even at my level, you get that all the time. You know, people are so grateful that someone's finally expressed their frustrations and their inner beliefs. Actually put that into words. Did you get the chance to talk to Ron Johnson one-to-one, or was he always busy?
Oh yes, I did, but I spoke to him mainly. The longest I spoke to him was on a telephone link-up before I went over to work out what I should say, what to do, all this sort of thing. And I think the most impressive thing of the meeting, when I went in to meet him one-to-one, I gave him a copy of the Death of Science.
Oh yeah.
Signed. And
followed closely by. So that one first.
Yes, right.
And then Profiting from Doom.
So I couldn't carry too many books. So I gave him
by Paul Gardard and English Dalglish and Louise M. Tutton.
And he said, well, thanks very much. Of course, I've read it front to back. Really? I mean, this guy's read everything. I mean, all these books. I mean, all the books that any of the people like us have written.
Yeah. I just noticed John Campbell wrote the foreword to this.
He did. Yeah, it's very kind of him.
No, thank you for asking me. It was very, very kind of you. Now, the good thing that's come out of this, I think, is it's increased awareness about, shall we say, some of your discoveries. And I mean, I'm not being patronising, but from what I understand about your immune-stimulating discoveries, I think they should have won a Nobel Prize. I mean, this immunomodulin 101 and the low-dose naltrexone, and of course the vitamin D. So, give us a bit of background. Let's start with this immunomodulin. What is it?
Well, it is a heat-killed mycobacterium, and a mycobacterium is a genus of bacteria, and it's a really big one. It's really big. It is what tuberculosis is.
Yes,
the adaptation of mycobacteria to a vaccine was achieved years ago by Bacille Camille Guerin.
As in BCG, yeah.
BCG. What that is an attenuated version of the TB germ, so it's been passaged till it's no longer dangerous.
Just weakened, it's like...
it's been weakened, yes.
So an emasculated version, yeah.
It boosts the immune response without, and of course to itself as well, so it's relatively safe.
So it shouldn't cause active disease.
Yes, but it's fantastic for protecting you when you're young, because it boosts the innate immune system, which is these primitive T cells, not just the antigen targeted ones, but these ones. And
this is the natural killer cells, isn't it? The NKs.
They're the secret to protecting you from viruses you don't know and from cancers.
Right.
And the thing that got me about this was that when I started to go into great depth about these cells, natural killer cells and gamma delta T cells. Now these are cells I spent over a decade doing very detailed work with some fantastic colleagues. One of my scientists, Dan Fowler, he did beautiful work showing that these gamma delta T cells were possibly the most important ones in controlling cancer. And other people have come up with the same conclusion. So it's rather interesting that, drugs and things that, immunotherapies that boost these has largely been ignored, apart from very niche people. I mean, a couple of people have said, we'll go down the route, so it has been recognised, we'll grow up all these natural killer cells and we'll give them as a treatment. And
this could potentially work against any cancer and any viral infection.
Yes, indeed.
We're not talking about one expensive drug for this cancer and another expensive drug for that cancer. And then you've got 200 expensive individual drugs. We're talking about one thing that can boost everything.
Yeah.
Marvellous.
Another group has done the gamma delta T cell, the same thing.
Oh, really? Right.
Grow it up. But they both haven't captured being the mainstream treatments. But you see, the beauty of this mycobacteria is that if you've got BCG, you can only give it once or twice later on to give it a bit of a boost. But if you give it again, you actually cause T cell suppression. You do the opposite.
Right.
Now, it's concepts like this, to be fully aware and having researched all this, is vital if you're going to start designing vaccines.
Yes.
Because the number of vaccines where once you give it the third time, you completely destroy the sophistication of the T-cell response and create a scrubland fire of activation and random immune responses, which does nobody any good. The beauty of the heat-killed mycobacteria was it was discovered by essentially John Grange, John Stanford, and Graham Rook did the immunology, is that you can give it again and again, and you never get this activation. All you do is boost the innate immune system. Whereas BCG, it would do this. With the heat-kill mycobacteria, it goes, it'll keep it there. And why this is so important, I mentioned this before, is once you get to the elderly age of 55, that innate immune system is genetically programmed to switch off, because probably you've done your reproduction and there's not that much need for it. It turns off things, it doesn't.
Well, we still have to make YouTube videos, Gus.
and so that, funnily enough, that slope from 55 to 75, when it completely collapses, is the time when you get your severiest autoimmune disease and the cancer incidence.
Absolutely. So that one goes down, and the disease goes up, and it's like a mirror image.
It's like a mirror image, yeah. So it doesn't mean to say it's causal connected, but it says, this is very strange, I wonder what would happen if you artificially kept that high, what would happen? Well, that's basically what we did with our heat killed over 20 years and a variety of things, and the outcome was really, really good. I mean, we even randomised trials as the outcome, but it was the unexpected things, which in retrospect make sense, is I had all these patients come to me, and they're doing melanoma, we'll be into the second year or the third year.
And you were giving them this immunomodulin 101?
Yes. And the partners, the wife or the husband would say, well, I don't know what it's doing for his cancer, but it's incredible. He never gets colds or flus anymore. He said the rest of us are down, and he used to be in bed at least 2 weeks every winter with the flu, and since he's been on that, he's never had it. Now, this was something we never asked.
And they hadn't been transferred to the ward with melanoma either.
But we didn't have to ask it, because everybody told us this prevents us getting the cold and the flu. It was quite incredible. Which meant
just think what would have happened if we'd used your immunomodulin 101 instead of the COVID vaccines. We could have prevented probably nearly all cases of COVID, many types of different infections, and potentially reduce the incidence of cancer for decades to come. Potentially.
I think that's exactly what would happen, and of course you can't claim that until you do it.
No.
I mean, I do.
The rationale is good,
and I now do believe, because we have had this up to Big Pharma quite high up before, with scientists thinking it's fantastic, giving it full backing, but it's never been given the approval to take it forward for approval.
But you've got one thing here that would treat potentially and prevent potentially all cancer. So you wouldn't be able to sell drug A for cancer A, you wouldn't be able to sell drug B for cancer B, all the way to about 200 different types of cancer, I would imagine.
Well, years after I had got so close with 2 big pharmas about this, I met somebody, and I just said, I can't understand why, when the scientists were so keen, they wouldn't progress. And he said, I can. I used to be a financial controller for Big Pharma. He said anybody could see you would wreck their supply chain for Plan B and Plan C. And the last thing Big Pharma want to do is to cure something. They just want to expand their markets. I can't tell you the number of people who left Big Pharma disillusioned, and that's what they say. They're not interested in cure, they're interested in delaying and continuing a chronically ill population, so they continue to get these drugs which the silly governments will pay for without question.
It really is that cynical. I mean, it sounds too bad to be true, but it's exactly what we're seeing. When this mycobacterium becomes available, can I come down and get some of it, please?
Oh yeah, well what I want is so any GP can prescribe it. That's my goal.
Yeah. So the advantage of this Senate hearing and all this debacle is that more people like Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Jay Bhattacharya now know about this.
Well, we hope so. We hope so. We certainly. I was asked to send them all this information, so they've got it all in short form and long form.
Well, they'll obviously be watching now, so give them a quick message, Gus, if you like.
The main thing, John, I think is because we actually said that just our adjuvant alone would be more effective than any specific COVID vaccine.
What was the adjuvant?
But that is it.
That's it.
It's an adjuvant, so you can add it.
I see. Yes.
Because it boosts the T cell, and that, as it's the T cell adjuvant, I think. So we said, that we should have that. Now, if they had taken us up on that, I think the thing that we would have saved. I don't think the number of people who died of COVID when the vaccine was rolled out was of any significance at all relative to people who died regularly with flu and etc. What we would have prevented are the hundreds of thousands, if not millions worldwide, who were killed by the vaccine. And I have no bones about it. That's what we would have prevented. And it's the fact that they won't admit it. The first people to pick up that what was going on with the vaccine, they weren't doctors, they weren't hospitals, they weren't health corporations, but the life insurance companies. Noticed a 40% increase in death rates in people under 50 with cardiac conditions after the rollout of the vaccines. Now that should have been enough, but what everybody, and you have to blame the people at the top. If you're going to be in charge of something, you've got to take responsibility. And I blame all of them. Fauci was the number one. And I realised then Fauci was playing a very evil game. He's a very evil person because he can't get to the top where he was if he is that stupid. And he was fully informed, and we know he lied, he covered up absolutely everything. And then the worst thing is, we look back, he did exactly the same thing with HIV. They should have rumbled him then. And
it's all in the real Anthony Fauci book by Bobby Kennedy in explicit detail, isn't it?
I think everybody should read that book because it uncovers a lot more than it uncovers the government, the so-called democratic system.
And done, it reads like a PhD thesis. It really is a superb piece of investigative journalism, stroke academic investigation.
I have all these people that say to me, that Robert Kennedy's vile, the quicker they get rid. I said, why? Oh, he's an anti-vaxxer. And I said, have you actually read what he's read it? This? I said, until you read the real Anthony Fauci, don't discuss. I'm not going to discuss it with you because
quite right.
That book is equivalent of a PhD and DSc all rolled.
It really is. Yeah.
He basically, Fauci sued him over it, and Robert said, no, it's all true, here's the evidence. Fauci had to withdraw. He won it. So Fauci has tried to sue. And if you read that, you find out who the other villain is, apart from Fauci. Fauci was this puppet of Bill Gates. And it's Bill Gates who's the real evil person behind all this, because he's trying to control world health with vaccines about which he does not understand. Or if he does understand them, then he is basically guilty of being criminal activity, because the deliberately pushing vaccines on that he knew were dangerous. He'd take control of the World Health Organization to push this narrative all the way down. He went on television saying, you have no hope of escaping this unless you're vaccinated. The richest man in the world then goes and boasts to his followers that he's made more money investing in vaccine companies during the pandemic than he ever made from Microsoft. I mean,
having committed his life to philanthropy. Yeah.
So I think what's coming out now, we have to hold people to account, or it will happen again.
Yes, absolutely. We're in a Nuremberg trial situation. I agree completely.
I mean, why do we have more fraud and terrible things happen in the city compared to Wall Street? And that is because in Wall Street they go after them and they jail them.
Absolutely.
How many villains in there? And we've had plenty of them. How many have been jailed? Very few. Until you start jailing them and punishing them, they're going to think, well, so-and-so got away with it, so it's worth a try.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But there again, paying taxes and doing the right things just for little people like you and me, isn't it? It's not for these important people. Just briefly, Gus, just tell us a bit about low-dose naltrexone.
Right, well, the low-dose naltrexone is a wonderful story in itself, and it would make a very good film, actually, when I think about it.
It would, yeah, it would.
It was discovered by total serendipity by Bihari, Dr. Bihari, who ran the drug addiction program in New York. And he noticed that when they tried naltrexone to get to wean you off morphine heroin addiction, in about half the patients it actually did work. I mean, they had benefit. And because of the nature of the drugs, they rolled off the dose. You don't stop. You just
just a gradual tailing off.
And he was bright enough not to dismiss people, say, can I stay on the low dose? He actually said, why? Why do you want to stay on the low dose? And they said, people said, well, you know, I have MS and it's much better on the low dose, or I have Crohn's disease and it's much better on the low dose, or I've got arthritis and it's much better on the... He actually listened. Unlike any of the doctors I know these days, they would just dismiss it as...
Sounds like they're all autoimmune to me.
Yeah, and inflammatory.
Yeah.
So it was all put down. He collaborated with Dr. Zagon in Philadelphia, and they showed that the low doses altered opiate receptors. They're not high enough dose to block them. They alter them, modulate them, and this results in a nocturnal change, a diurnal change in neuropeptides affecting the endocrine system and the immune system. And that, they all felt that this would explain that very well. Well, I got involved because I found an obstinate patient who wouldn't tell me why they were doing so well when we'd run out of options, and finally told me she was getting low-dose naltrexone from Dr. Bihari. And I went over and saw him. Whether this was smoke mirrors, fraud, or whether there was something in it that we didn't understand. I came to the conclusion it was the latter. I think you have to meet these sort of people to work out how likely it is that you're dealing with somebody who recognises these things and understands what have you. And so I started giving it to my oncology patients who'd run out of options but weren't ill enough to go to palliative care, which is actually quite a big chunk. And we then started noting that we were getting rather overwhelmed with having to do repeat 3 monthly prescriptions. And I thought this person was going to be dead in 6 months, and I'm still doing repeat prescriptions for the second year.
Which is wonderful, of course.
And then I decided to pull some of these people back and re-scan them. And I found that in some of the cases, these multiple liver secondaries hadn't progressed at all since going on low-dose naltrexone. And then we started to see some absolute responses. They're rare, but the stabilisation seems to be very, very common, but responses a bit rarer. And I came to the conclusion, wait a minute, no amount of fiddling with opiate receptors and neuropeptides can do this. There's something else going on. So that's when I decided to say it must be using another receptor, another pathway. So I used my old HIV receptor knowledge and techniques, and I decided the best way to go fishing is to get a net. So I got every single immune receptor in the book assembled for a big fishing expedition, and the low-dose naltrexone inhibited TLR9 and a bit 7 and 8. And these toll-like receptor inflammatory pathway, but a major inflammatory pathway, which when you stimulate it, it produces IL-6. And when I saw this...
Which is a pro-inflammatory cytokine that causes...
Because when IL-6 was published, I remember reading the paper, it came out. It was called cancer growth factor. The cancer growth factor. So I thought, we've got a drug, orally, once a day, that switches off cancer growth factor. And to give you an idea how relevant it is, that these two companies make antibodies to IL-6, so when you're very farly advanced with cancer, you can get these £100,000 drugs. No, if you give it cheaply up front, you won't need those monoclones. And that's another insight to what's going on with Big Pharma. They're not interested in something cheap and everything that will actually improve everything.
And we can make a lot of money out of monoclonal antibodies, I'm sure. I'm sure they cost thousands of dollars a go.
Well, the checkpoints were costing about $100,000 a year. And they were wanting to give 2 years' worth to everybody with melanoma, just in case. I mean, they run...
The low-dose naltrexone is essentially free.
It would cost absolutely nothing to put all those who needed on it. And in
fact, the trick is to pay a pharmacist to actually make it low enough dose to take the 25 milligram tablets and turn it into... how much would I need? So if I'm 80 kilograms, what sort of dose of LDN would I need?
4.5 milligrams absolute maximum, and a lot of people...
Tiny, isn't it?
Find the benefit even better at 3 milligrams. So I take if you're 70 kilograms or below, you have 3 milligrams. If you're over 70, 4.5. Bear in mind there's individual variation, so that's the range, but never go over 4.5. I had
and so with that dose, I guess there can't be any side effects at all with such a tiny dose.
Well, any side effects very early on, and it involves sleeping and dreams, and which is why they suggest starting even lower to 4.5 over a couple of weeks. But I've never had anybody not be able to take them because of sleeping and dreams. It attenuates, settles down eventually.
But I mean, for treating heroin addiction, what were we using? 25, 50 milligrams?
No, 200.
Oh, wow. Wow, so this is an infinitesimally small dose, isn't it?
Exactly. We have examined the reason why, and that is because all drugs come in more than one form. Often the simplest duo form is levo and dextro, left and right forms. And the low-dose naltrexone is one form, and the one that blocks the opiate receptor is the other, and preferentially absorbed after 4.5. And that piece of information summed up why I couldn't understand why something low dose would be so much more effective than something high dose.
So the low dose has got both forms in, the right and the left-handed form in it?
No, it just has the left.
Just the left, right, okay.
Yeah. And then the other one drowns it out at 4.5.
Right,
that has been done on the phase 1 study, so we know that is scientifically the case. Which one's left and right, though? I do get confused sometimes.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah. It's a bit like aspirin. You know, after a coronary event, we'll give 300 milligrams of aspirin, but that works way better than 600 milligrams of aspirin. So it's a matter of optimizing the dose, and that's often a lower dose, which is.
Actually, what it woke me to, both these examples, low-dose naltrexone and the IMN, these are both drugs which, if you looked at the starting dose, they fail. They won't work. Now, usually in drug development, when that happens, you increase the dose. But in both these cases, it is the reduction. And it was shown that the secret of IMN 101, but when they gave it intradermally, it didn't work very well, first of all. So they look at everything, how it's made, what have you. And the big secret was if you actually reduced the dose by 90% and just gave 10% of it, it worked perfectly. So these are both drugs showing that less is more. They work far better in low doses than high doses. So that overturns everything. I got my honours degree in pharmacology from. I went to my second MB. I did very well in pharmacology, and that was almost by saying, well, let's increase the dose.
Yeah. We have the old dose response curve. The more you give I mean, it works with alcohol, doesn't it? You know, the more beers you have, the drunker you get. But
that's true.
But it's not true for everything. Because fantastic stuff. Thank you for taking all that time to go to the States. I think it was a really important job that you've done there.
Yes.
And we certainly have much more to talk about. But for now, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your time.
raped. Plattner said to avoid rape, women should act like an adult for F's sake. He's an awful person.
Graham Plattner is dangerous.
I would never vote for Graham Plattner.
Chevy Silverado HD with available Duramax diesel and power that doesn't quit and strength that doesn't either. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.